Hello and welcome to Prairie Pulse. I'm John Harris. Joining me today is John Peterson, one of the engineers at Prairie Public and our DTV specialist. John, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me here.
John, as we get started, tell folks a little bit about yourself and your background.
I've worked here at Prairie Public in the engineering department for over 22 years and done a variety of things here. More recently, of course, has spent a lot of time on digital television.
Well, that's what we're here to talk about today. And that big day is fast approaching. February 17th, 2009 is the date when analog signals will cease and the new digital technology will be the only thing broadcast out there from a standpoint of stations. What does that mean and why is it being done?
Well, the big thing for people is if you have the old analog television, you're not going to be able to receive the new digital signal unless you have a digital converter box. If you have one of the new digital televisions, then you should be okay. Or if you currently subscribe to cable or get your local channels through your satellite provider, then you'd be all right.
Well, we'll probably talk a little more detail about that, but can you update the viewers on Prairie Public's transmitters? And you might talk some about our infrastructure at Prairie Public and when our analog signals will be switching off.
Well, we have 7 analog transmitters across the state. The first ones we'll be shutting off is out in western North Dakota. Williston and Dickinson will actually be shut off before February 17th. We're shutting those off this fall. Our other transmitters, if we can keep them running, we will hopefully make it to the February 17th shut-off date, and then at that time we'll be shutting them off. All of our digital transmitters are on the air and operating, and we currently cover almost all of North Dakota and portions of Montana, northwestern Minnesota.
So we actually have 8 digital transmitters, one in Minnesota.
Right, 8 digital transmitters. The one in Minnesota is located north of Crookston.
Okay. Do you have an estimate on how many Prairie Public viewers actually have over-the-air signals, of course, with an antenna?
Well, 15% would be their main way of receiving us, and that translates into quite a few households.
Well, and with that, who will be affected and who won't be affected?
Well, if you have an over-the-air antenna and you're currently receiving your channels through that antenna, when the analog transmitters are shut off, that's it. You won't be getting any television unless you get a digital converter box or subscribe to cable or satellite.
But, okay, so with that then, talk about the converter box, because it's not a requirement that you have to invest in a new TV.
Right, right. A new television can be expensive, so what they're doing now is they have the converter box coupon program. If you apply for coupons, each household can apply for up to 2 coupons. They're $40 coupons to offset the cost of the converter boxes. The converter boxes run anywhere from $50 to $80. I've been able to find good ones for $60. So it's about another $20 in addition to the coupon.
And of course, we're going to see a video a little later on, and I believe you're going to kind of give us some instructions, because they shouldn't be intimidated by this converter box when people go out. And I mean, it's new technology, but the converter box is pretty simple, isn't it?
It's very simple. It's very similar to hooking up a VCR. It just basically goes in line between your antenna and your television. The only caveat would be the issue of an antenna. I guess antennas for most of our stations are VHF antennas. A lot of our digital transmitters are UHF, and so you would need the ability to receive UHF channels with that antenna. It's different for every viewer. So if you have questions, feel free to give me a call, or you can ask the question of your local electronics dealer where you buy the box. They may know.
Well, what kinds of questions do people need to know when they go in to get a converter box? Because again, this is a complex issue in some ways and simple in other ways. But people talk about analog pass-through. What do I need?
Well, the digital converter boxes, each retailer doesn't have a big selection of them. They normally sell one or two, maybe three different models. The big difference between some of them is some of the converter boxes have an analog pass-through, and that would come in handy right now when there are analog signals to still receive. And some places in the country, not much in North Dakota, but there are some places in the country where there will still be some low power or translator stations that are still on the air in digital after February 17, 2009. In North Dakota, there's not too many low power stations that would fit that category. There are maybe a couple.
Well, and people have had the opportunity over the past few months to apply for, and you said up to two coupons.
Yes.
$40 towards the purchase of a converter box. You know, here's the issue for me. I mean, if you've got 4 televisions in your household, okay, I've bought one high definition television. We'll talk more about those in a minute. So do I not need then to get a converter box?
Well, if you have a second or third or fourth television, maybe you have a television out in your garage that you want to continue to use, well, maybe you want to get the digital converter box for that television. Same goes true for maybe one in the kitchen or, you know, in your bedroom. A lot of people would still use rabbit ears on a television in their bedroom. They don't even have it hooked up to a big antenna. And that would, again, be the case. You'll need a converter box. Now, whether or not those rabbit ears will work, that's another question.
Well, from Prairie Public's point of view, people can go ahead and start looking for our signal because the digital signal's already out there.
The digital signal is there. I encourage people to do it as soon as possible. You don't want to be climbing on your roof adjusting your antenna in February. You want to get it done now. So all of our digital signals are out there. We cover the entire state, or almost the entire state. Give it a try. If you have difficulties, feel free to give me a call.
Well, in fact, understand you borrowed somebody's office at Prairie Public and created a short video that's going to talk about this converter box and explain maybe the hookup. Well, you tell me exactly what we're going to see.
Well, I did was I took a digital converter box and connected a simple set-top antenna to it, a type of rabbit ears, and we were able to receive some of the digital signals here in Fargo.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, let's take a look at that video right now.
Well, if you're an over-the-air television viewer, you'll need to get yourself one of the digital set-top boxes or a digital converter box like this. We have a couple examples here in boxes. The box is real simple to use. It's simple to hook up. You just need an antenna. An outside antenna may be best for some, but an indoor antenna like this may work if you're close to the transmitters. We'll just start by hooking this antenna up to this box. First we hook the antenna up. It hooks into the box very similar to hooking into a VCR. Then the cable that normally feeds the antenna to the television, you use that and connect that to the box. So the output of the box feeds the antenna. All of these boxes are powered, so you need to plug them in. We just turn it on, turn on the television. In this example, the television needs to be on channel 3. The digital set-top box is what we'll use to tune in the digital channels. When you first turn it on, you won't get anything because the digital set-top box doesn't know the channels that are out there. So we just need to do a scan for the channels. It will automatically find the digital channels for you. It doesn't take very long, about a minute, and you'll find, depending on your area, anywhere from 5 to 12 channels. Once you've found the channels, we can get out of this menu, and you may find, as in this case, not all the channels are coming in clearly. but that sometimes is just a matter of adjusting your antenna. The digital set-top boxes are available at your local electronics store, your local Best Buy, Target, Walmart, Radio Shack. I'd recommend being proactive on this and taking care of this sooner than later. Most of the local stations are on the air with Digital Now. Get these hooked up before February of 2009, and you can see what you need to do to get the digital channels.
Well, John, coming out of that, probably more questions than answers possibly, but just like the antenna you had there, it works well in some places. Of course, in that office, you were on a 4th floor, probably had better access. What advice do you have? Because I know for me, I've had people say, will my antenna work?
That's a big question, and without actually seeing the antenna, I can't always answer that. I encourage people to ask questions of their local electronics store if you have someone. If not, again, you can give me a call. The big thing is the antennas. Bigger isn't always better in this case. Sometimes the big antennas were designed for the VHF stations, and like I say, a lot of the digital stations are on what they call UHF channels. UHF channels are channels 14 and above, and the smaller antenna actually works better, or a combination antenna that does the VHF, UHF.
Well,
if you've had an antenna up on your roof for 30 or 40 years, there's a good chance that not only is it not in very good shape, but it's maybe just a VHF only antenna. If you've had a newer antenna installed in the past 20 years, then there's a better chance that it does have the UHF capabilities.
One of the things I noticed on the video there was some pixelation, or it wasn't just a crisp picture. So I mean, you and I have been in somebody's house not too long ago, where the antenna's placed and the alignment is going to be very critical.
Yes, it is. Especially with an indoor antenna, getting it up and away from yourself, because you can actually cause the signal to have problems being received. Getting the antenna up on top of a bookcase or something will sometimes help. I encourage people to use an outdoor antenna because things will change. The quality of the signal will change with atmospheric conditions. I've had a lot of people call me and say, hey, I get your channel really good all the time, but at 10 o'clock at night it seems to be not so good, or during the evening hours. Are you guys lowering your power? Well, no, we're not. We don't change our power any, but atmospheric conditions will change the ability to receive the signal. The further you are away from our transmitters, the more likely of those problems. The better antenna then you'll need, especially a good outdoor antenna.
Well, John, of course, we're going to give people a phone number for them to call, but there are websites where people can go. Can you talk some about those?
Yeah, there's actually a number of good websites. You can start out with our website, and we have some information there, but then we also have links to websites that give you additional information. Those websites quite often will give you even the location of all the transmitters in your area.
Okay. Well, John, can you talk some about, because obviously you've been taking the calls for Prairie Public, the majority of the calls. We all take calls, but over the past few months, and what are really people asking you, and what are they concerned about?
Well, the big thing is, why and what do I need to do? The antenna is the big issue, and like I say, a lot of times that conversation ends up being a good 10 minutes or more. So I do encourage people to give me a call if they have questions about the antenna, or if their antenna they have now doesn't work after they get the digital television or the digital converter box.
Okay. Well, now there's also some confusion out there among some viewers about the difference between digital and high definition. Even my dad years ago, talked about, well, I've got high definition television because I've now got digital cable.
No, digital cable, some of our digital broadcasts are not high definition. Digital does not mean high definition. You cannot, well, normally you're going to have a hard time having a high definition without it being digital. Years ago there was a HD analog system, but that's not around anymore. So you have to get HD, you have to have digital. You don't have to have HD to enjoy the benefits of digital, we do broadcast more than one program stream on our channels. So we have one broadcast stream which is mostly high definition programming, and then two other streams that are standard definition programming. And some other broadcasters are also doing the same thing. But you can display the HD signal on a standard definition television with the use of one of the converter boxes. It converts it down to a standard definition signal that your television can understand.
Well, John, you mentioned something there about mostly in high definition, but I know you're not a programmer, you're the engineer, but isn't part of the issue is that everything hadn't been produced in high definition yet?
Right. A lot of cost is involved in producing in HD, especially if you've had a show that you've been producing in SD for many years. To replace all of your video equipment to be able to handle and do it in HD is very expensive. This particular show that I'm on right now is being produced in high definition and will be, or is available on our high definition channel, but not all programs are. And of course, a lot of legacy programs or programs that use legacy material, older material, like a Lawrence Welk show, is not going to be produced in high definition unless some of those episodes are available in film. They might be able to transfer the film to high definition, but I know a lot of our viewers maybe are interested in some of the older shows. Those will never be high definition, but we can still deliver them through the digital system, and they'll still look good, not as good as high definition.
So with that, in thinking about that then, when something's wasn't originally produced in high definition, then don't we end up with a display a little different?
Well, that can be a big issue for us. If you have a widescreen television and you're trying to watch a show that I call square, a 4x3, it's square, well, you can display that on your television a number of different ways. I personally like to display it as the original square. I end up with black bars on either side. Some people like to stretch that out and make it fill the entire picture. On the other hand, if you have a program like this one, which has been produced in high definition widescreen, and then you want to display it on your square television, well, then you end up with the black bars at the top and bottom, and that's of course a letterbox picture, very similar to what you'll see when you rent a movie now, and you try to display it on your 4:3 television. Quite often you end up with the top and the bottom as black bars. Well, that's because the movie is a widescreen.
And then sometimes people may end up seeing what is referred to as a postage stamp.
Yes, the postage stamp is if you take a high or a standard definition program and upconvert it to high definition, then you have this square picture within this 16:9 widescreen, and if then you take that 16:9 widescreen and try to display it on a 4:3 television, well, then it shrinks everything down and you end up with this postage stamp. We're trying to avoid that happening, but it does happen occasionally, and that usually will generate a few phone calls.
And while I'm sure we've muddied the waters, but that means you've got black bars on the side and black
bars on the
top and bottom.
Yep.
So why was high definition mandated by the FCC?
Well, it was kind of a joint effort between the FCC and the broadcasters. It goes back over 10 years. The Japanese, almost 15 years ago, started an analog HD system, and then we're moving into a digital HD system later on. And the broadcasters in the United States did not want to be left behind. In addition, movies, DVDs, things like that. DVDs are not high definition until now. Now you got the Blu-ray HD coming out. But broadcasters did not want to be left behind. The FCC did not want to give broadcasters more bandwidth to deliver HD, so they needed to come up with a system that would use the same amount of bandwidth or less to deliver high definition signals.
Well, when did we begin conversion here at Prairie Public?
We began 10 years ago now, the process. We started converting our interconnection system from our studios to all of our transmitters. We had to convert that to a digital system, and then we started building the transmitters and getting those up and running. We've been continuing to work here in this facility, making it so we can process all of the digital signals that we provide and process high definition signals. And that's been a lot of work. And also to be able to produce shows in high definition.
Well, one thing that I've been real proud of is Prairie Public has been one of the leaders in the region in the conversion to high definition. Can you talk more about, we talked about the transmitters, but what about then the rest of our infrastructure with the studio and master control?
The studio and master control, it gets expensive. The high definition cameras that we use are, tens of thousands of dollars, and we're not talking just one camera, we're talking multiple cameras. And the cameras we use to go out and shoot our documentaries, those are high definition cameras now, and it takes a lot of money to convert everything, and then to be able to edit those shows together and then deliver them not only to our viewers but nationally. We've been actually one of the stations that has delivered a number of high definition television shows to PBS, and that those shows have aired nationally in high definition.
Well, with that then, is Prairie Public fully converted, or do we have more to go?
We still have some more to go. We can't do as much as we used to do in terms of what we could do with our analog system, but we're getting there. We have some more equipment to buy and additional cameras to purchase, and
We'll get there, though, right?
we'll get there.
What we talked about televisions, and I said I wanted to talk a little bit about when people go out and now. First off, I want to say you're not required to buy a high definition television. You can get the converter box, and
Right.
But okay, for those people that say, okay, I'm ready to invest in a high definition television, what should they be looking for when purchasing one? Because I'm going to throw out some numbers here that, again, I don't want to confuse it too much, but when you go in, I mean, you're looking at 32 inch and 46 inch and 50 whatever inch, and
Yep.
and then they talk about 480p and 720p and 1080i, which have to do with resolution.
Right.
So what do you look for? I mean, what do you need to be talking about?
Well, the resolution is the big question, and obvious, well, it's maybe not obvious, but the higher the number, the better. But with a smaller television, like a 26 or 32 inch television, you're probably not going to be able to see the difference between a 720p and a 1080p 32 inch TV. Why spend the extra money to get the resolution? I mean, maybe if you sat 3 feet from it and really looked close, you could, but most people sit back 10 feet from a television, and at that distance with the smaller televisions, it's not a big issue. Now, as you get to the larger sets, 46 inch, 52 and 65 inch, if you're looking at the bigger televisions and you're viewing from at, say, a 10-foot distance, well, then you would be able to see the difference with some programming. But now the issue is, what programming are you going to be watching? The programming that is delivered from us and other broadcasters in high definition is 720p at its best for your television, or that's what your television is going to display. We can't even provide you 1080p. Our studio cameras here can do 1080p, but there's no way for me to deliver it to the viewer right now. So the only way you can actually watch 1080p programming is through a Blu-ray DVD. I'm not sure how important that is for viewers yet. So I recommend people, maybe you may not have to spend that extra money for that 1080p set. 720p will do just fine.
Okay. Will this the analog shut off affect DVD players or folks with digital boxes?
No, if a DVD player will be fine, and even if you buy a new television, the widescreen television will actually work better with your DVD, because the letterbox programming will go away. You now have a widescreen display, and that's even true all the way down to a 19-inch widescreen television will display that widescreen DVD now better.
Well, John, as people are going to find out, I've come to you for advice on purchasing, my high definition television, and there was the discussion of plasma, LCD. what do I need? You know, is there really a difference? Or?
Well, there is a difference. There is a bit of a cost difference, although that's getting to be closer and closer. The plasma televisions in the 42-inch range are, you know, a little bit cheaper than the LCDs in the same size. But the disadvantages with the plasma is they generate more heat and use a little more electricity to operate. So maybe the cost savings in electricity might be worth by spending a little more on the television.
Well,
I
we're going to have to wrap it up. I wish you could, but the best thing I can say are that one size does not fit all.
Right. Yep. Just try to educate yourself as much as possible.
And with that, if people want more information, where can they go?
Our website, prairiepublic.org, or give us a call here, 1-800-359-6900. You can ask for me, John Peterson, or my extension is 503.
John, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Well, that's all we have this week. As always, thanks for watching.